Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 37 of Mythic Cast. I'm your host, Spencer, and I am joined by a returning guest, Jaren White. Jaren, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you, homie?
Dude, I'm so good. Last time you were on the show, I told you I was ending it. And
I know, right?
then, 8 months later, we brought it back. If you want to check out our sponsor, we are sponsored by PureMTGO.com. The entire network is sponsored over there. It's greatly appreciated. They are a great sponsor. We really appreciate them. The Patreon will be coming up before the end of December. It'll be patreon.com/mythiccast. So check that out. But today is about you, Jaren, because as I said in our last episode with you on, you could have gotten on this show the normal way, right? Like just getting Mythic, achieving things in Magic, and you have done that since your last appearance. And I want to talk about you, kind of you specifically a little bit. I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk Magic with you from my time on constructive criticism and coaching, and you've grown a lot as a player. But for the listeners, when did you start playing Magic? Like when did you decide to become a competitive Magic player?
I started playing Magic around Return to Ravnica. I didn't start playing competitive Magic until Theros, original Theros.
What do you think? What do you think that got you to make that push? Like, maybe you're going to occasional weekly draft, occasional F&M. Like, what makes you think, what, I want to do this more. I want to take this more seriously.
I was already a competitive person at heart, so I said, why not? And I had nothing else better to do.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Uh, is there something that you think that, you say that you're already a competitive person, but is there something that you've learned through competitive Magic that you don't know that you would have learned somewhere else?
Um, Patience.
Talk to me about that. It's just like slowing down your turns or waiting for your opponent. Like what kind of patience do you think you've learned?
So like I've learned through like my games, especially like going on this more recent journey of like when it comes to my turn, I slow down, I stop, I think, like all right, I look at the board, I observe the cards in my hand, what land I have available, what land my opponent has available, what I think they're having in their hand, what I know they're having in their hand, and what is on their board as well, and what's in their graveyard, and then I go from there.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that as somebody who I kind of relate to what you just said, and I think that it's important that listeners always try and do the same thing, right? When somebody's talking about the lessons that they've learned, try and see, have I learned this lesson? Is there something that I can take from this? And for me, Jaren, I've suffered from racing thoughts throughout my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that Magic has helped me with the most is slowing down those thoughts and taking everything bit by bit and then making decisions from there. And it sounds like you have had a similar experience in the game.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the patience you've learned from Magic has maybe helped you outside of Magic?
Uh, it helped me with decisions in life instead of just making like a snap decision. I think about everything. I think about everything, how it affects me, how it's what I need to do right now and what I need to do later on.
What do you think that listeners? I mean, I know for me personally, like what you're saying echoes very much my learnings in Magic. Why do you think Magic does that? Like, how do you think that whether it's the Mythic grind, the PTQ grind, why do you think these relate so well into just competing in life?
Because competing in life and competing in Magic have very similar what's the word I'm looking for? Similar lanes.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about your journey to get on the show this time because you've been crushing it. Whether it's getting Mythic in a month, whether it's competing in the SCGs, you've put in the work lately. Can you talk to me about? I mean, you're qualified for the the MCQ, or not MC, yeah, the
Yes,
MCQ this weekend on Arena. Can you
that
talk
one
to me?
and January.
Is it in January?
I'm qualified for both.
Uh, there you go. Can you talk to me about that? Like what was that journey like? Like, you decided that you're going to be a competitive Magic player, and now you're getting these qualifications to these important events. What's the grind like for you right now?
I had long decided, like before, like long, always wanted to be a competitive Magic player. But then now, since we're all like basically can't really do anything else, I decided now was like a perfect time to push for it. The journey right now is very interesting and a little bit more difficult because I don't have I'm not always like I got used to playing paper Magic, so to play Arena was a bit different, but I got used to it. This journey in particular was it was interesting and fun. I kind of decided I wanted to play MCQ one day after I was going like 4-0 at SCG, and I was like, you know what? I was like 5-1. I was like 5-1 gets me to the MCQ, so I said, why not go for it? Next thing you know, I was like, holy crap, I get to play in the MCQ.
What do you think? You talk about these SCGs that you're playing in.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently got back into Magic, started playing these again. What do you think they've taught you? Like, what are these SCG online events? This way to compete in Magic in a world of a global pandemic. What has it taught you?
That people are willing to play Magic anywhere.
How do you think that helps you, like as a competitor, knowing that you're playing against other people who care?
Whew. So other people that other people that care. The way I viewed these SCGs were that they're basically like PPTQs
Yeah, I
that
think
also
that's
had
true.
that also had a 5K attached to it.
I agree. I think that, when you look at these events and you view them through the lens of that old PPTQ system, it really says, okay, well, what's my goal here?
Yeah,
And having those micro goals and learning through those micro goals will help anybody listening to this podcast in getting through these events. That it's seven. I guess it's not 7 rounds in these. I think they're all 6 rounds.
six
But
rounds.
getting through these 6 rounds um, against competition that cares, right? Like these are. It's not the same as going to a PPTQ where it's, oh, there's a PPTQ this weekend. It's just a Magic event near me. I'm gonna go play in it. These are
Right.
people that are like, no, I want to compete.
Yeah, these are people that literally grind out Magic. These are the grinders that you don't see usually. That you always hear about, but don't see at MTG events because they're grinding events on MTGO.
Yeah. Talk to me about kind of the difference here, because obviously you qualified through standard events, right? Whether it
Mm-hmm.
was with Gruul, whether it was with Teamer, you played these awesome decks in standard, and now you're faced with preparing for a brand new format. You're preparing for a world of historic. How do you
Mm-hmm.
approach that?
I've always liked historic because I get to play some of the cards, some of my favorite cards that rotated out. And that was one of the main things that gravitated towards me. How I do prepare for it is when I first learned, I went 5-1. I sat down and I was like, okay, what are the best decks in the format? What is tier one? What is tier two? What is tier three? What am I willing to play? What am I not willing to play? What am I willing to put in the maybe pile and then go from there?
Let's talk about the five. I want to come back and circle back to what you just said. Before we
Hmm.
do that, I want to talk about what event did you go 5-1 in?
Say that again.
What event did you go 5-1 in?
I think I went 5-1 in the. I think it was the first one I went 5-1 in.
The
Yeah, it was the
SCG.
first one.
It was just an SCG satellite and standard with
Yeah,
Teamer, right?
Yeah, because I did at least like 3 or 4 of them
Yeah.
within a month.
So you're playing this teamer deck. How
Hmm.
did you land upon this, right? Like you're trading these like PPTQs. How do you pick teamer for this event?
That was simply a metagame decision based on what everyone was playing that weekend. So I was like, there's no Esper. Everyone's playing mono green. I think I'll play Teamer.
Yeah, and I think that's a great decision. I actually played teamer in the exact same event. Um, was not lucky enough to run into any mono green, but uh, I think that one of the things that I've really been impressed with you over the last couple months specifically is your ability to be willing to change. So often people get stuck in I'm an X player or a Y player, and they're not willing to say, well, this has a good mono green matchup, so I'm going to play it. And that's what you did. And then even after you did well with Teamer, you weren't like now I'm a Teamer player. You actually pivoted and played that Gruul deck.
Yeah.
You talk to me about that pivot. Like, how are you so willing and able to switch decks on the fly like that?
Well, number one, I'm not gonna lie. Shout out to Emma Handy. She basically told me play Gruul, and I was like, all right, no problem.
I mean, Emma's great. Shout out
Yeah,
to her for her new job at Wizards of the Coast. Um,
facts.
and I think that I just did a deck tech on Gruul this week, and I give a huge shout out to Autumn for the work that she and Emma had put in on that deck. But I think that just being willing to listen to better players is a really important part of Magic. Or not even just better players, but just
Listen
listening
to
to
your
other
elders.
people.
Listen to your elders.
Not just your elders, but like just listen to people.
Yes.
Decipher the information how you will is a really key and important part of Magic. So you've now done well with Gruul. You've now done well with Teamer and Standard. And now you've looked at the best decks in Historic. Where are you at, man?
So right now, I'm currently thinking either Sultai or Four Color Midrange or Euro. Um, I'm in a mindset of play Euro until it's gone.
That's a fair mindset to be in. Just this card's gonna get banned, so I'm gonna play it till they do it. I don't hate that mindset. So
That too, that too, and in a tournament when there's a closed deck list, Salt usually benefits Sultai and Four Color Mid Range because they have the better win percentages across the field, as opposed to a open deck list. Your opponent can kind of metagame for it a bit.
yeah, do you have concerns about Grafdigger's Cage main deck coming across? The mono red decks and some of the other decks that getting cross hate. Do you have any concerns about that?
Not really. Nissa solves that issue.
Dude, I definitely was playing Sultai this week, and my opponent went turn one Grafdigger's Cage. I played 3 Nissas in that game, killing my own Nissas just to like build up the board, and it was not close. So I I,
Yes.
I completely agree.
Yes.
How will you decide? Like, are you gonna put in 50 matches with each deck? Like, how do you go throughout this process?
This particular process, because of like the way my sleep schedule is and my current work schedule, I grind out matches when I can over time. I'm already comfortable with both decks. It's just a matter of the pros and cons of each deck and weighing them out and figuring out which deck I'm going to play.
What do you think the pros and cons are right now? Like, if you were to break it down for the listener, like what
So,
what would lead you to play Sultai? What would lead you to play Four Color?
what will lead me to play Soul Tie is I have mirror breakers, such as um, I have mirror breakers such as which one we all saw recently this weekend, thanks to LSV, is Ashiok, and also Brazen Borrower to deal with problematic permanents, and you get to play Maelstrom Pulse as well.
Talk to me about Ashiok.
Oh, so Ashiok, Nightmare Muse. Um, that card literally is there to bounce a problematic permanent that you normally can't get rid of, or if you just so happen to curve out into it and you're sort of on an empty board, you can create a blocker to start milling your soul tie opponent, and then playing with whatever they have in exile.
So you see that you have these more refined lists coming from, once again, you mentioned LC before, you mentioned Emma, like you're taking note of what other people might do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how does what you know LSV do play into how you consider kind of things moving forward?
It makes me very conscious of what's out there, and it makes me realize also because you also people watch what people post on Twitter. Magic moves at a very fast pace nowadays. So now people see that, hey, you may see Ashiok and Sultai, so you may have to watch out for that. Or you may see Teferi in four color, so you may have to watch out for that as well.
What do you think the benefits are of something like Ashiok? Like what do you think of Ashiok as like this 5-mana planeswalker? Do you think it's disrupting your deck, or do you think it's solving a problem that you didn't really have an answer for before?
It's solving a problem. It's solving a problem in a sense that your Sultai opponent can't ether gust it. They it's a harder enter. It's similar to the theory of when Brad Nelson put in Doom Whisper in the sideboard.
Yeah. One of the things, in LSV's list specifically, he goes from one Tail's End, which was the norm, into three Tail's End, like really going hard on that. Can you
Oh, I love
talk
that card.
can you talk to me about that really quick?
Tails End is gas. Tails End solves a lot of um, Tails End solves a lot of issues that you can't hit with a normal counter spell. You can hit a Muxus. You can you can hit you can hit a Euro after. So basically, like you can play your own Euro, put the land into play, and then tails in the sack trigger, so you get an automatic 6/6. You can tails in your opponent's Fable Passage. That's kind of disgusting. Um, there are a lot of things you can do with tails in that are very, very good.
Where do you think that the four color comes into play? Like when do you want things like Yarshin? Like when do you want the white?
So say for example that we see a lot of people play Sultai this weekend. Then then his, then people kind of lean towards sacrifice decks a little bit. Then that means you play your Sharon because your
Yasharin.
Sharon
Sorry, I said Yarshin, but yeah, Yasharin is correct.
you play your Sharon a little bit more because that also stops things. It stops the sacrifice deck in its tracks unless they slam a Chandra. Um, it stops the Simic Paradox Engine deck because they can't sacrifice Chromatic Sphere to Emery. Um, what else? Yeah, your Sharon stops a lot of sacrificing.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It
So
is a true hate card.
so where do you think you'll end up? Like you're obviously very much on these Euro decks. Are
Mm-hmm.
you just waiting till the last moment to decide which lane to pick?
Yes.
That's a fine answer. I think that's totally fine. Um, if a listener's listening to this, and
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to decide if they're with Jaren or not, where do you hope to land? Like where do you hope the format ends up so that you can end up in a specific place?
Can you explain the question more?
Yeah, so like if it, in a world where you get to decide what everyone else is doing,
Mm-hmm.
which deck do you end up on?
If everyone plays Sacrifice this weekend, I play your Sharn. If everyone doesn't play Sacrifice this weekend, I play Sultai.
Right. So where do you hope to end up?
I really hope to end up on straight Sultai, but if I play four color, I play four color
Yeah. Why do you hope that?
because I'm I'm confident enough to know how to play my mirrors, and there are also certain things about Sultai I like better about four color. My mana's a bit smoother,
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
and I also get to play Brazen Power.
Sure. Sure. The list that I am seeing from LSV does not have Brazen Borrowers in the main deck. Are you just talking about the one in the sideboard?
Yeah, the one in the sideboard, that's actually a good card.
Okay. What is that sideboard card for? Can you kind of expand on that for us?
Brazen Power serves a little bit of the same purpose as Ashiok. You are able to bounce permanents early and or mid game that give you trouble, such as Gravedigger's Cage, or say for example you need to get rid of a shark token.
That makes sense. I think that specifically, like, just being able to, I mean, to be fair, just being able to bounce, so many tokens in this format makes a lot of sense to me. Do you, do you like the, I mean, the Ashiok, first of all, the Ashiok over the Shark Typhoon in the main deck also makes a ton of sense to me.
That's
Uh,
gas.
things like that to me, are filling out nicely. One of the things that I really liked in the mirror was Narset. And,
Hmm.
LSV only has one in the main. How many Narsets do you think you'll end up on, regardless of which deck you play?
Uh, Between main and side, probably about two to three.
Okay, cool. What advice would you give to people? Like, are there decks that you would avoid going into this weekend?
Um, I would not play Kethis. I would not play. I would not play Gruul, and I'll be a little leery on Sacrifice.
Let me tell you something, Jaren. I am a Gruul master, and I also would not play Gruul in Historic. I'm 100% on the Sultai train, and I really hope Goblins gets banned.
Play our Lord and Savior until it's banned.
Honestly, I would rather them ban Goblins before they ban Uro. Like,
I think both are coming either way.
well, I'll be a little sad if they ban Uro. I don't know. I think that, like, having a good ramp control deck is fun for a format, but I'm also
Yeah,
extremely biased.
it's also kind of busted when you can do it on turn five.
Sure. Well, Jaren, I want to thank you. We went off script on this one, and I really appreciate your flexibility on this.
Thank
Um,
you.
I had a lot of fun. Is there anything you want to tell the listeners as you prepare for this weekend?
Um, even if you even if you don't do well, realize that you got there and you can get there again. There always will be other chances and other opportunities. Make the best out of opportunity, learn from it, and grow.
That was what I was going to text you today. I was driving when we were texting, and you were talking to me, and I
Mhm.
was literally going to text you that, one of the most beautiful things about Magic is that there's always the next PTQ.
Yes.
And that's really cool. So good luck to everyone this weekend. A special good luck to you, Jaren.
Thank you.
Where can people find you if they want to follow your content?
So you can find me on Twitter at JWMTG. I'm pretty active with my followers. And if you see me in a Discord community, say hi.
Yeah. You can follow me at Spencer13H. We have a Discord for the He's a Game Media LLC. You can check that out where I post this podcast. I post everything that we're doing across the network in there, and also, if you want to get crushed in fantasy football next year, I'm currently number 1 in the Easy Game Media Fantasy Football, Jaren. So, I mean, it's because you're not there this year. Let's be real. But thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Jaren, thank you so much for coming on. And we will see everybody next week with another episode of Arena Mythic Cast. Bye.
Later.